Hi, you guys. So I wanted to try something different, and I don't just want to talk only about the books I write, even though they're right there. But I want to update you guys about the books that I'm reading because I am a very big avid reader. And I mean, I go through books on my Kindle like this. There's something about reading a book on ebook that you just read it so much faster. So I love going on the social media communities to see what you guys are all reading. And it's a dangerous thing because I feel like every time I go on to an app, my to be read list keeps growing. But that's a good problem because sometimes you're in a book hole and you can't find the right book. So I just want to go through and kind of talk book things. And two of the books that I've recently read that I have to share with you guys. But I don't just want to sit here and talk, that I also want to share something else with you, and hopefully this little new thing that I'm doing here will help you guys to get to know me better as a reader and just as a general person. I want to touch up my makeup and go through some of my makeup with you, because when I'm not writing, I'm reading, and when I'm not reading, I'm trying to stay sane with life with a 2-year-old who keeps bringing home germs from daycare, and that means I spend quite a bit of time, more time than I will admit to my husband, scrolling on the Sephora app because I love makeup. And if you guys don't know me, I don't just write, but I also paint. And it was really hard once I had my daughter to paint on the canvas because I paint with oil paints, and that means it takes time to mix up all my colors, and I just don't have that time. So I feel like since I've been painting less on the canvas, I've been painting more on my face, which means I have really dived into makeup. So I thought it'd be fun just to talk to you guys about makeup in books, and if that sounds like something you're interested in, then stay tuned. And just as a side note, it's not just me here. My little dog Shuki's here. This is Shukran, and if you know that language, you'll probably be giggling right now thinking that I named my dog Shukran. It means thank you in Arabic. My husband is Lebanese, and for some reason, when we were dating early on and I heard the word Shukran, I always envisioned it as a little dog. So when we got a dog, we named her Shukran, but we call her Shuki for short because a lot of people have a hard time saying that. So Shuki's gonna be sitting here on my lap, so if she barks or something, don't be startled. So let's get started. So first, I'm gonna try to combat my tired mummy eyes. And if this is a problem for all the mummies out there, you might wanna try a color corrector, because I went through like a million concealers and they were just not doing the job. So color correcting can be fun. It's like painting. I wanted to cover up some of those purpley, bluish, dark shadows. So the opposite of purple is yellow, which means when you combine them, you're gonna desaturate that purple. So long story short, I'm just gonna use this little e.l.f. Color corrector. And I also will, so if you follow makeup, you will see that Korean Beauty uses a spatula, and I thought this was just another gimmick, and I got this for free when I was ordering blah blah blah. So I used it, and you guys, I thought I was in a fantasy novel, because it just, first of all, you use so much less product. You just kind of gently go over it, but I felt like it was magic. I had magic in my fingertips and this little tool, and I am absolutely hooked. It's just insane. So I want to talk about books. And this last book I read, to give you the root of the story, I read the second book in this series. The first book is My Dark Romeo, and as you can see, I fell in love with it. So I just finished My Dark Desire. And I just have to say, these two authors, ParkerS.Huntington and L.J. Sheen, when they team up to write a book, I'm going to stop every single book that I'm reading to read the book. So if you like enemy to lovers, I don't know if I would classify it as dark romance. They're just extremely snarky and sassy characters. This book is for you. So I think what hooked me on their writing and what is so different is the characters' inner dialogue. And like I said, it's so deliciously snarky. I feel like a kid that's like playing ding dong ditch, and it's like you're doing something naughty, but you're giggling in the bush watching someone else get really annoyed. And that's what reading this inner dialogue is like. So just to FYI, when I give book reviews, I don't like to break down every single point in the plot or name every single trope, because I feel like if I do that, what's the point of you reading it? I don't want to spoil everything for you. So just know that there are characters in here that have extremely strong personality traits. The first book with Dallas, that was the main character in this book, she was raised as like extremely wealthy girl, and she jokes about eating like all these really fancy and delicious food and spending hundreds of thousands on Hermes bags. You know, when I read some of the reviews for that book, because I always like looking at a 1-star review for a book that I rated 5-star, which is funny because as an author myself, I don't read reviews that are less than 3 stars. It's just, it does me no benefit psychologically or anything else. But when I'm rating a book 5-star, I like to see people's reviews who rated it 1 star. I don't know the psychology behind that. I just like to see, like, why did someone hate a book so much that I loved? And you know what I realized? A lot of time people take reading too personally. It's not too emotionally, and emotionally and personally are different. People really got upset over Dallas's character in this, saying, oh, she's so spoiled and whiny and blah, blah, blah. But if you take your personality out of it, Dallas is rich, and she was raised rich and pampered, and she's acting how she was raised, and that's how most of us will act. We act how we're raised. So when I read, I kind of like to try to keep my I don't know what you would call it, I can't think. Like, I like to keep all of my judgments out of it, and I just kind of walk in the character's shoes. And that's why a lot of books with like trigger warnings and stuff, I don't mind trying it, because I just think of it as I'm walking in their shoes. So walking in these high Louis Vuitton shoes and wearing Dallas's Hermes bags, it was just so snarky and fun, and I loved it. So when the second book, My Dark Desire, came out, you know, it's always interesting with the second book to see if it holds up as good, and it did not fail. It was, I mean, the characters, the sass, the snark, it was still there, but at the same time, the authors managed to keep that same writing style, but tailor it to those characters. So I still was giggling to myself during this kind of dark humor, but it actually sounded fitting for those characters in their traumatic events that happened in their childhood. Also, I gotta remember to talk makeup. So after you do your under eyes, you should set them, and this just kind of helps that makeup not settle into those wrinkles that we're seeing. You know, my point to makeup is I won't do like a full face like I'm going to a Broadway show. That's just not me. But I'm also not super minimal in the sense that I like to have an eye or lip. But this setting powder, it is expensive. It makes my skin feel like velvet. I don't know what's in here. It might be pixie dust ground up by Givenchy. It's absolutely fabulous, and if you want to start with the travel size, I would recommend it. Some people like to kind of cake it on and let it sit, and then they brush it away. But I found doing this with the color corrector and then a good concealer, it really helps hide those dark circles that you get from having a 2-year-old. So after I finished My Dark Desire, I kind of wanted to give these authors more of a try, because I had only read really their books when they co-author together. So that led me to ParkerS books, and I started reading Darling Venom. Oh my gosh, you guys, you have to hold on to your seats, because this book has extremely strong trigger warnings for a very particular trigger, which is suicide. So I don't want that to scare you from this book, because I feel like when there are trigger warnings in books, obviously that's put there because they're going to trigger an emotion in people. But if you have a good author that knows how to write, they're going to make you feel that crazy emotion, but they're going to take your hand and hold you through with the character to get through it. And that's exactly how she did it in this book. It was phenomenal. It was gritty. It was real. I laughed. I cried. There were some chapters that were just too emotional. I had to put the book down for a few days. It wasn't like a few hours later. It was a few days later. I had to wait to pick up this book. If that doesn't scare you, I would really dive into it, because I don't know if I can say I've read a book that was like this before. So I'm quickly going to do my eyeshadow and just hang you there for the book right now. I've never tried Viseart. I hope that's how you say it. If it's not, this is my tomato moment. So I'm gonna go with Viseart. Never tried their palettes. They're really reasonably priced. So I also order from Beautylish. Never ordered from them. Very happy with the shipping. So I ordered 3 eyeshadow palettes and I got a whole nother palette. My husband is laughing at me through the window. I got a whole nother palette for free. This was the free palette. And it has this really beautiful dual chrome shadow in it. I'm not sure if I want to look eccentric today or neutral or like a pastel flower. It all just depends. This looks so intriguing to me. If you're scared of colors, don't be. You can always wipe it off. But this blue, I feel like sometimes with accent colors, if you want to be bold and try it, but you also need to pick your kid up from daycare and not look like you're going to a drag show, just try a little bit of bold color underneath. It really makes your eyes pop. It makes you feel like you have color on, but you can do like a nice neutral shadow on top. I also got this palette. I should be telling you guys the names, but I don't consider myself a makeup reviewer. This is Petit Floors Zol. I can't read it. Can't read it. 30-year-old eyes. And then this, I really love just all the neutrals. For some reason, I'm really going into matte colors on my eyes lately. So I'm gonna ponder what we should do while I talk about the book. Even though it doesn't match the lipstick that I just got from the Sephora sale, I thought I would play with this color just to show you guys who are very scared of color that you can wear this color no matter your age, no matter where you're going. So I'm gonna try this. I think it's called Petit Fours Pastelli. I'll try to post the name below. So let's get back to Darling Venom. So just to give you a little bit on the plot, you have your main character, and I want to make sure that I don't give anything away. Your main character is going through this huge like bad psychological time in her life, and she meets the guy in the book. I'm not going to say what happens, but years later it takes you into where she meets his brother, and that's all in the blurb. I feel like the way they described the emotional things that happened were very relatable, very real, but the plot was so good and interesting because the one original brother leaves behind something for them, and it kind of grows into this thing, and I feel like I was chasing the pages in the book to get more into finding out where that bloomed rather than the romance in the book, which is a little unusual. I'm just tapping into the blue and I'm going to go under my eye. It's unusual in a sense because I love a romance book, and I feel like if there's not any romance in a book, I'm not going to read it. But when I finished this book, I thought I really didn't even need any of the romance, because what happened to the characters in their growth and development from the first chapter to the end, that was more intriguing to me than the romance, which seems like sacrilege to say. So needless to say, yeah, there was a good amount of romance in the book. I'm going to give it I'm going to be generous and say it was 4 star, because when there was a saucy scene, it was saucy. And there's a scene that happens in the doctor's office, which is like saucy in this really bizarre way, because it's like, oh my gosh, I don't know. You guys just have to read it. But I didn't even feel like I needed all of that, because I just wanted to know what happened to these characters, like personally, rather than all the sauciness. So I'm putting the blue on. You guys can see it's quite understated. It's not too bold. It's not scary. It is definitely not as scary as my favorite liquid blue eyeliner. This can be worn really subtly too. So yet again, don't let bold colors scare you, and don't let trigger warnings scare you. The book ended, first of all, this was a really long book. I think it was around 700 pages, which can sometimes feel like where you get through the meat of the burger and you feel like you're just chewing and you want to swallow and be done. And I didn't feel like that. So I feel like this was one of, besides writing with the other authors she co-authored with, I'm definitely going to look into reading more books by this author. She has a gift with words, but also with connecting you to the characters. And I want to read more by her. But I have another book I have to talk to you guys about. My next book is an audiobook. And before I pop into that, I really want this blue to pop a little bit more. So far with the Viseart, I'm really happy with the quality. There's not a lot of fallout. The blue is a little less pigmented than I thought it would be, but I feel like that's okay. So this is by Violette of France, and she makes these amazing eye paints. They last all day. And this blue color, I was so scared of using it, but her pictures on her Instagram just look so stunning. So I bought it and I love it. You guys have to try this lapis blue. Usually I do it as a single little feline flick, but I just want to try it underneath and hope that I don't regret it. So I wanted to talk audiobooks in a series which I'm sure you guys all know of. Okay, but first of all, let me digress. I really like that. So up close, yeah, it's like a bold blue, but from far away, I feel like you're not going to get the side eye from other moms when you pick your kid up at the daycare because you have on some fabulous makeup that they would be too scared to try. And that just is a reminder to you guys, do what makes you happy, because I feel like we need more of that in life. And who cares if other people judge you, because they're going to judge anyways. So just go ahead and do it. So what is great about this palette is they gave you colors that on the color wheel are very complementary to each other. So you have the blue and the orange, which is going to look great. You also have this nice little neutral color. I already have a bit neutral on, so I'm just going to try to fix it up with these two, and then I'm going to go in with a little pop of this beautiful glittery orange. So let's go back to talking about books. I started this series because it is a huge series. It's A Court of Thorn and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. Read the first book and I absolutely loved it. I don't know what happened, and I guess this gave me good insight in being an author. I started the second book and I just could not get into it. And it must have been what was happening in my life right now. Sometimes you need certain book genres for what's going on. And that's just good insight as an author, because sometimes you have readers who have been with you from the beginning, and then they might pick up a book from you, or you send them like an art book and you don't hear from them. Sometimes you just have to wait a few months or longer and try to get back into it again. So as I mentioned on my Instagram, there was a book blogger, and she blogs about this book or posts about it a lot, and her husband started reading it, and she posted like these videos of his interpretations, and they were so hysterical. They just had me laughing. But he was talking about the second book in the series. So he was talking about the second book, A Court of Mist and Fury, and he mentioned something, and I guess getting over a cold. There was something, it was a bit of a spoiler, but I was like, I never got to that part, and that seems so good. So I was like, let me start again with the audiobook. Sometimes I just put an audiobook on in the background, so I thought, let me commit to it that way, and I stumbled upon the dramatized versions of the books. And you know, having that little bit of extra acting and the sound effects in it, I didn't think it would affect the story as much as it did. And it really just, you know, they have this kind of funny little saying when you start those dramatized books and it says a movie in your mind. But having all those soundtracks in that, it really is that, especially if you're a visual person, you hear all those little cues. And I just like the whole scene was painted for me. So I went through the whole first book, really, really loved it. Which I already knew I would because I loved it. And then I started the second book, and it's like I felt like I was kicking myself. Why did I wait so long? But maybe I just needed to be in this point in my life to start the second book. It's so fantastic. So I just started the third book of these dramatized book series. And you guys, I feel like a lot of you and a lot of my readers are big fans of that book. So it's probably more of a shock to you that I stopped reading it in the second book. And it is absolutely blasphemous, especially because I love the book series so much now. But if you guys recommend any other dramatized editions, let me know, because they are like such a game changer. It's like all the separate actors' voices in that. It's like, you know, unfortunately we don't get a movie for every single book we read, but that really, I mean, it was the cherry on top. It really just came alive. So I'll just pause for a minute. I'm not going too crazy with this look, but I think you guys can see adding like a little bit of bold color underneath will maintain some neutrality on top. It's not that scary and it's actually quite fun. I want just a little bit of a lighter color, so I'm going in with Charlotte Tilbury's highlighter powder. You could use any other highlighting powders that are less expensive. The thing I like about this is it's not glittery, and I feel like when you get to a certain age in your life, you want a little less glitter and a little more shimmer, and there is a difference. So I just take some of this and I am just going in here in the corner of my eye. So very simple eye look. But also there was another beauty blogger and she had a tip, and boy, I don't know why I never thought of this, but it made such a difference. I'm just trying to clean my brush. I would pick a brush that's a little bit smaller than this, but I don't have one at my disposal right now. So she took her highlighter and she went in here, which makes total sense because when I'm painting, one of my favorite things to paint is where the light hits the eye right there. And she went up and she went over the darker shadow. And I don't know if the light is hitting it where you guys can see, but it just reflects so nice. And like I said, this is shimmery. It's not glittery. And I feel like having shimmer instead of glitter, it just works for any time, day or night, on any skin, any age of skin. A little more there. I don't know if you guys can see how the light hits it. Also, when I'm painting, I love to hit all the little highlight spots when I'm painting. Oh, that's another tip I learned for mummies or anyone who just has tired puppy eyes. Even if you don't have time to color correct and conceal, and I don't color correct every day, sometimes I'm lucky if I can just throw in a little concealer. You take a little bit of shimmery, not glittery highlighter, tap it on your finger, okay? Go right where, see where that shade is? The shadow, because obviously no matter how much sleep you get, how many caffeine drops you put on your eye, our eyes are sockets, and this is how I think when I'm painting. So obviously there's a hole there with a ball, your eyeball in it, but if you look at it as a shape, there's a bone and there's a hole behind it. You're gonna have a shadow no matter what. So if someone tells you this is gonna cover up your shadow, I mean, unless they're gonna flatten your face into a flat bone, that's not gonna happen. So take a little bit of highlighter, because what we want to do is instead of catching that shadow, we want to reflect it, and we can do that with with some highlighter. So you take a little highlighter and you just pat it on where that shadow would be, and when the light hits, trying to get, if you can see both at once. Obviously when it hits there, you're obviously going to see that, but when I'm looking straight on, see if I can get you a better before and after. Maybe you can see this. I think my lighting is a little too powerful, but you can see, this is always my problem eye. This is like the villain in my book, and this is the good hero in my book. And this one's just always creeping up in the dialogue. So that's another little trick for you guys, trying to hide those eyes. One other thing, if you haven't tried Patrick Ta blush, I never thought I needed to wear blush because I get really blotchy, but this stuff is amazing. He gives you a powder and a cream, and if you follow him, he likes to do the powder first and then the cream, which was quite shocking because everyone would do the opposite before, but he said the cream brings it back to life. Any way works, and sometimes, to be honest with you, whether it's this color or another color, I'll just use this as my eyeshadow too, just to put a little bit on, and I like to bring it over my nose. I will do a little dab of the cream, and if you really want to tie a look all in so it feels cohesive, I do this when I'm painting. When I mix up different colors, I kind of won't just throw it on one spot. I'll throw it on another place around the face just because it makes it feel like more blended. So I'm dipping into the powder bit, and I'm just going to bring a little bit onto my eyeshadow just so it picks up those warmy tones. So let's finish this off with the next book I'm going to read. Well, I grab my lipstick that I can't find. Oh, here it is. So this was by Charlotte Tilbury. I just got it in the Sephora sale. It was my guilty little treat to myself. This is not part of her new line. It's called Karina's Star, and it's really this pretty, it's kind of like my lips if I pick an orangier tone. It is a matte lipstick, which I usually don't like because they're really drying, and I feel like my skin and hair is literally a sponge. No matter what I put on it, it continually soaks it up. I do have, it's not curly today, but I have curly hair, and for the curly hair girls out there, you know that our hair just drinks up oil, drinks up any moisture. So this is probably the only matte lipstick that I can say I can wear that doesn't, you know, entirely dry out my lips. So if you haven't tried hers in this color, you might want to give it a try. And another lipstick that looks scary, going back to colors or trigger warnings that are scary, this is a Chanel Cocoa Bloom lipstick. It looks really scary and intimidating. It's this bright color. Don't let things scare you. Pick it up, try to read the book, try to play with the makeup. It goes on really light. It's like a balm. Okay, it looks bold there. Let me wipe off my Charlotte Tilbury quickly and show you, because this goes on and it's seriously one of the most comfortable lipsticks I have. It's very light. It's like a slightly more pigmented lip balm. It's very slippery and shiny. It's not going to last all day, but they're probably appreciating that, so you have to go buy it again. But I would highly recommend it. So the next book I'm reading is by an author that I sincerely adore, Cora Riley. It's called By Frenzy, and it's part of the Ruin series. I feel like her books were some of the first like mafia trope books that I started reading. I think the first one was called Bound by Honor. I just love her books. I love her writing. So that's going to be my next book read. And if you guys liked this little chit chat and you want to see more of it, I'll try to do more. If you want me to also kind of like zone in and pause the books and talk more about the makeup and tell you like, hey, this is this product, this is the color, I'm going to do this and that, let me know. This is just my first trial run, and I thought it would be fun to try. So thank you guys for everything, for watching, staying tuned, and I hope you enjoy reading. Bye.